You couldn't see what I have just given for a sign when Mrs. Raab said it's a huge honor. I just said, no, it's not. It's an honor to be here, and thank you for having me. And dear Mrs. Raab, Mr. Rohleder, thanks for hosting and arranging this conference. Now, I'm the last speaker of this conference. This is actually an impossible speaking situation, as you, Mrs. Raab, said exactly what I was planning to say, only in better words. So what do I do now? Maybe, first of all, I'm enthusiastic, maybe not the first one, but one of the first businesswoman or leader, maybe because you are a businesswoman, that has read actually the Draghi report. There was a discussion in Germany, well, it's an Italian asking for more money, we push it away. That's no surprise. That is not true. I come to this in a moment later, and I will also comment on the AI Act, as this is my ministry and the people sitting here at the first row who have the responsibility to do it rightly and also pragmatic. But maybe I start with the scariness you just mentioned. We now have an AI summit, and I would say in the past 2 years, AI was suddenly the hot new kid in town. But that is, of course, not true. It was in 1969 that the first computer won against the former world champion in chess, Garry Kasparov. And the funny, or not the funny, maybe the scary thing is that Kasparov said before the chess game against Deep Blue, the computer, was starting, he said he wanted to defend the honor of mankind in this game of chess. After 19 moves, he has lost. It was the fastest loss Garry Kasparov ever has suffered. That was the honor of mankind lost, was it? That is the scariness. You know that in 2021, Beethoven's 10th symphony, the unfinished symphony, was finished by an AI program. So now you can listen to Beethoven, not written by Beethoven, and people don't actually notice the difference between what the genius of Beethoven has written and an AI program has done. And 10 years ago, I read a book, I think a very famous book, Homo Deus by Harari, Yuval Noah Harari, the Israeli philosopher. And his closing remarks, the last 2 or 3 sentences was, if I have it rightly in mind, that he was asking a question. He was not closing his, 600 pages book by stating or giving a statement. He was just asking, saying, what's going to happen to the world if computers, AI, and artificial intelligence is getting to know us, mankind, humanity, better than we ourselves know? If they understand our wishes, our needs, our hopes, our fears better than we do. And that is actually the scariness. If you think about the cultural questions, the history of mankind, and you ask yourself, what is the speciality of mankind? You will find different answers. Language, for example. Well, after ChatGPT, that is not a speciality anymore. Humor, in 2021, no, 2027, if I remember it right, humor was first time digitalized. I tried it many times now. In artificial intelligence, I would say that AI has a pure sense of humor, but a poor sense of humor. Sorry, it's not funny at all. So in a way, there's a German saying, you go laughing in the cellar. Well, the cellar, there's maybe where the computer is doing its jokes. But of course, that might be the next step. So that is the scariness. And on the other hand, and this is just telling the story, that what seems to be new, the new, excuse my French, hot shit in town, has a long history. We started, Harari's book is 10 years old now, Kasparov's defeat more than 30 years ago. So it is not new that computers can learn and can learn faster than we do. And we have AI everywhere in our daily work, in our daily lives. You have discussed it in many sessions here over the past 2 days. So saying we don't want to have AI is saying we don't want to have our normal life. It is an impossible situation. And if you look at that from that side, all the opportunities discussed here in the last 2 days give us hope for a better future. That is exactly the point Mrs. Raab just made, and I would completely agree. I come back to the scariness and the fear in a minute. But what can you say against a better healing practice to determine or to detect cancer patterns in the life? What about safer traffic? What about a better energy system where we save CO2 emissions? By the way, this digital grid steering system, I need it. I need it now, and I need it next year online in the German energy system. So I need the address of this company, and then we mingle you with the grid operators. So what can you say against it? That is not scariness at all. That is just helping making our lives better. And this is exactly what we have to do now from both sides, from the economic side and from the regulation side. From the regulation side, it's the AI Act. And as I just said, it's now up to us, the government and the ministry, my house, to do it rightly. Of course, you can make many mistakes by over-regulating everything. That is not the plan, and that is the promise I give you, that we want to whitelist as many sectors as possible. Everything that is just technique we use in our daily lives, we don't want to regulate. We want to thrive the business of AI. We see the opportunities. We see that it is a great, great opportunity to move forward. And the guys sitting here in the first row, they stand for that. They really coming from the economic side, and they see the potential of AI growth in Germany and in Europe. And this potential, that is now the Draghi report, is really, really needed. You know, if you are German and if you are European and look to Germany, we are going through difficult economic times. That has many reasons. One reason still in Germany, we are in a country with high energy intense industry. Not so many other countries in Europe still have them. Well, we have it still in Germany, and I want to keep the energy intense industry in Germany, but we have it because we had cheap gas from Russia. The gas is gone, the electricity prices, the gas prices are higher than before. That is a lot of pressure on this energy intense industry. That is one problem. But the other problem that is highlighted by the Draghi report is that Europe has a problem in growth potential. And this problem is not new. It came to life over the past 10, maybe 20 years. What is it saying exactly? It's saying that the old company, the German Mittelstand, the big companies, the big industries, they're doing their job, they're doing their thing. They also reform their business models, they go to other places, they have trade relations, and every now and then they put fossil energy out and do renewable energy in. That's okay, that's going forward. But what is missing is that something new was added to this new established industry. And that is exactly the case of technology, digitalization, or IT. The first IT revolution, if you can say it, it's not a revolution anymore, it's just the fundamental basis of economy was actually done in the US and then maybe in China, but not in Europe. So maybe you can say that SAP was the last really big world champion that came from Germany, and then startup companies. Startup companies all over the place. That's wonderful, that's cool, and the ones of you who joined with me the last Startup Germany summit last week know that we don't have a problem in creating startups, but we have a huge problem when it comes to venture capital and the growth phase. Then a lot of promising companies are leaving Europe or Germany for the US market and maybe some Eastern Asian markets. That is the explanation why not enough new has happened in Europe and in Germany. Now, coming back to the AI regulation and the opportunity we want to have in it and protect it, this is maybe the last chance for a thriving economy in Europe, that we don't let this next step of development, maybe this next revolutionary step, not let happen here in Europe. So how can we do it? What do we need? And this is exactly what the Draghi report is not asking for, but urging us to do. First of all, we need to create a new attitude of developing things, new endeavors, new venture capital, therefore, is needed and given, and that is really part of the work of the last 3 years in my ministry and the government that now brings really fruits forward. We collect money now from the private sector that is able to fund or to help new companies, to help startup companies thrive their business here in Germany and Europe. And most, I would not say all of them, but most of these companies are doing something digital. And using that, doing something digital means using AI and bringing AI forward. Secondly, we are strong where we have always been strong. The other part of the German economy, maybe the European economy, but I can better speak about the German economy. Machinery, for example, is really a world champion in its own right. And they have a lot of data, and they use this data already now. If you are visiting the Hanover Fair, for example, you actually see AI robots doing AI things all over the fair. And that is, I mean, I don't think we will create the better next ChatGPT. Maybe also this large language models phase is now to be held or established in the US, and we will use their technology. But the technique, where machinery is, where we really have knowledge in German economy, there's a huge potential. And how do we lift this potential? Well, all these, especially the startup companies, they don't ask for so much money. They, of course, need venture capital, but that is a business model. So this is something we have to explain, all of you, and also myself, explain to the old German economy that this is not, I don't know, generosity to give some startup company money. If you do it rightly, this is a business model. You earn money, you create new wealth, and you will maybe more successful by investing in startup companies, but by just investing in what you always have done, I don't know, ships, if you are the son of a shipping company or whatever. So that has to change the attitude. But then, of course, we need to create a market for that. And I see the state has a big role there, as we are a huge consumer and user of data, as an anchor customer, you can call it, maybe, that we give orders to these companies to use the AI as a business model and create it. Now, coming back to the scariness, and maybe this is the most important message I can deliver in my little speech, and maybe also a wrap-up for these 2-day conferences. Mankind was, in a way, always skeptical about technological progress. When machineries were developed, there was the fear that people will lose the job. When robots come into place, then the fear was there that unemployment is going through the roof, and it has not happened. Of course, there was a change in the society. People have to learn new things, but learning new things is really not the worst thing. And if you look how the world economy has developed since we became a modern, progressive society, we, the world society, you see that more people are getting out of poor circumstances. The living conditions have really, really, really improved. And this was done by technique, of course. So I remember when I was studying at university that I was following a debate in Great Britain in the 1600s or maybe 1700s. The first novel ever written in Britain, or after Shakespeare maybe, was called, I think that it was called The Adventures or the Life or the Books of Clarissa Howe. It is horrible boring to read these books. It's really, really, don't read it. But the thing is, this is now high literature. You study it in university. At that time, I don't know, you can Google it, 1670 or maybe 760, I don't know. People were advised to keep the books away from young girls and women because then they read all the time and don't engage in prayers or helping in the household. So reading was feared that time as a new cultural technique that will wipe away the society. What does this little story tell us? Well, technological progress and the fear of losing cultural ownership about what is considered as defying humanity or mankind is not new. It was always there. Now we are entering a next phase, not now as today, but in this phase we experience new technique. Of course, you can use technique also for bad things. I would say with electricity you can kill people, but should we ban electricity? And that is exactly how I look on AI. It's a new technique. Of course, you can misuse it. That we exclude by the AI Act. But if we're doing it rightly, it is the chance for a next economically thriving, but also doing things better and sustainable society in Germany and Europe. Thanks for the conference, and let's work for this better future. Thank you very much.